Hello, Facebook Live
Hello,
watchers.
Facebook Live.
Welcome to Loud About Addiction, our third episode. That right?
Yeah, number 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, I'm loving it. You enjoying yourself, Dave?
Having lots of fun. Mate.
Beautiful. We just wanted a quick shout out before we go live to everybody that's been watching and all of your comments over the past 3 episodes. We've absolutely loved what you're saying hello, how it's helping, your questions that you've got. We'll be answering any of those as soon as we can.
We sure will do.
Beautiful. What we're going to do is we're going to go live now to our audience across the globe. That's an international audience, but you are seeing it first here live, face to face. Stay tuned.
Have fun, guys.
This is Loud About Addiction with Tom
And Dave.
Broadcasting from the world famous Bondi Beach.
Hello Bondi Radio and welcome to Loud About Addiction, our 8-week radio show talking all things lifestyle addictions, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling or something such as procrastination or saying yes to everybody else other than yourself. Whatever it is that's holding you back in life, we will explore it, we'll discover it, we'll give you a whole lot of support, a lot of engagement, a lot of motivation, but most importantly, we'll be giving you the how, and we're doing that through a 7-step coaching methodology which has been proven time and time again to help someone move away and let go of a lifestyle addiction. I'm Tom Cartwright, your host, and this is our co-host Dave. Dave, how you doing?
I'm well, Tom. How are you today?
Well, mate, very well, very well. Funnily enough, I think I said this last week, but I was also at another wedding on Saturday.
Another one?
Yeah, another one. Yeah, absolute beautiful time of the year. Actually, a lot of friends, a lot of family getting married, and look, I absolutely love them, Dave.
Lovely.
Absolutely love them.
Lovely.
And what about yourself?
Mate, I had a bit of a yin and a yang weekend. I had 2 close people to me. One entered a rehab. And have another one suffering depression, so that brings the reality of life and addiction back to you, straight into your face. So that challenged me a bit, but I decided to get back into life and had a beautiful Sunday, played some tennis and had a lovely lunch with my beautiful wife Donna Lee up at North Bondi Fish and Chip Shop there, just sat in the sun and you look straight down onto Bondi Beach, had some fish and chips and a few prawns and some Aburi salmon, some lovely salmon.
Yeah,
with
you
a
have
salad.
a lot of that in Bondi, right?
Yeah. But I had the chips, so you got to have the salad. You know, I've got to feel as though I'm part of Bondi, mate.
Oh, good, mate. Really good. Hey, Dave, just on that note, something that I heard you say, how does it feel in a world of uncertainty where hiccups like this can go on, not only for yourself, but for family and friends? If you just shared there 2 instances, how do you handle, how do you tackle that now, the man you are now, as opposed to the man that you would have or used to be, over 20 years ago? How do you handle that uncertainty? How do you find it? How's it different for you now?
Tom, I've learned to accept that life's not perfect. I was a perfectionist when I was younger, and I was basically brought up to be a perfectionist. And I might have mentioned it before, all perfectionism is, for me these days, is being a pain in the arse. You're a pain in the arse for yourself and for someone else. So I've learned to accept that life has its ups and downs, and I have to choose to be happy. And life can be very sad. We've both been through challenges and very sad things, and you go through death and loss and divorce and upsets. So I've learned to really challenge my own thinking, to challenge the way I react to other people, and to be with people, to be present with people. But one of the, I was at a rehab on Saturday, dropping someone off, and watching that person walk back into the rehab, it brought back a lot of sad memories for me. And I had a moment there where I was back 25 years, and I could really feel it in my body. It was visceral, and I got very upset and sad for a few seconds, had a bit of a cry, but then moved on.
I think thank you so much for sharing that. We did have no idea we were going to start the show with that, but wow, how good was that? And anyone listening at the moment, just amazing stuff to hear, whether you've overcome it and you can relate, or you're thinking, wow, that's a few of those things there are what I want to tap into and what I want to become. And the last thing that you mentioned there was what I would actually call quite a higher sense of emotional intelligence, which is allow a thought to come up, or something will happen outside of ourselves and a thought will come up, knowing, okay, which emotion can I tap into and when can I experience? And look, I think that's emotional intelligence, to know what emotions there are, what ones can I tap into, how do I tap into them resourcefully, and when is it appropriate to tap into them? It sounds like you just ticked all those boxes there.
And look, sadness and melancholy are natural things we feel. But when I start feeling sorry for myself, and I can slip into that all the time, when I start feeling sorry for myself and using someone else's misfortune or someone else's hardships as an excuse to stop living myself, that's when I've got to pull myself up.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Dave. Should we jump right into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today's
Beautiful
topic.
day in Bondi.
Beautiful day in Bondi. Oh, if you're tuning in for the first time, we are broadcasting live from the Bucket List down in Sydney. So for those who are listening live, we've got a beautiful view here over a beautiful cafe area, straight down to the beach. The sun is shining. There's a little bit of wind, creating a bit of movement out there. There's a few little ripples coming in on the water. An amazing day. So if you hear anything outside of the room here, a bit of music, someone walking around, that is because we are live. It's a great atmosphere to be broadcasting from, and we're so glad that you can be a part of this. So have that picture in mind if you want. Be right down here in Bondi with us.
Yeehaw.
So today we're going to be getting into level 2. Now, we have been giving you the how to move away from a lifestyle, one or more lifestyle addictions. Now, this is what we call the Trust Me module. So a really quick helicopter view yet again, and I'll do this for you every episode in case it's the first time you're tuning in. Otherwise, join us on our Facebook page. We'll be giving you all those details later, or the Bondi Radio app, or the Bondi Radio Facebook page, and you can catch up. However, the Trust Me module is a coaching methodology, and it's got 7 steps to it. And the Trust Me is an acronym for level 1 is trust. This is when we don't have much trust in ourselves. We're not sure who to trust, so we're certainly not at the level, or at least we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to ask for help. Okay. We also then get to, when we move through level 1, we get to level 2, which is relatability, and this is when we realize we can't do this on our own anymore. We just want to find a tribe of people where we belong. Usually this is going to be an unresourceful tribe because there's other people that are running addictions just like us, and we want to feel, well, you know what, if I'm a little messed up or if I've got some problems going on, at least I know other people have those too. So we're going to be talking specifically about relatability because I know so many individuals, so many teams, time and time again I'm hearing, well, I'm stuck in this tribe of people that are doing the same thing as me, and that's why I absolutely love this topic. Then we'll get into level 3 next week, which is uniqueness. This is where we stand on our own 2 feet for the first time and say, my life won't be determined by my tribe's insecurities. I will live my own life on my own terms, and this is taking a lot of responsibility. Once we move through that level, we'll get to level 4, which is sustainability or systems. And this is where we're in a place of taking enough responsibility to take on the systems in place and the structure in order to actually start achieving our goals. Once we start to see this happen, we will move into level 5, which is tenacity. This is where our character's built. This is where we realize, you know what? I'm not that afraid of these problems anymore. In fact, bring them the hell on. Bring on my problems, and our character is built because we're building courage, trust, sustainability, compassion, grit, determination, some of these higher level, hard-hitting values that we need to achieve our goals. Now, once we move through tenacity, we can and we will get to level 6, which is meaning, M for meaning. Now, this is when we start to think, wow, look what I've achieved over my life. Look at this addiction that I'm actually moving so far away from. Hang on a second, there's got to be something more to life. This problem that I thought was consuming me is no longer my biggest problem. You start to question and think, wow, what have I done? How could I do it differently? When we move through that level, we'll get to level 7, which is E. This is for evolution. This is where we tap on the glass ceiling above us and we realize, wow, there is more. And we push through and we break through the glass ceiling, and we've evolved as a human being. Once we can go through this whole process, we can let go of, and we've evolved, and that addiction is no longer something that we might identify with, and we'll focus on, well, I'll say this honestly, we focus on the next problem that's going to show up. How does that sound, Dave?
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Beautiful. So relatability. Last week, just to touch base, look, we learned how to move through level 1, like lack of trust. So we need to develop trust by embracing vulnerability. We gave you some amazing tips in order to do that. Now today, talking about relatability, the problems around relatability with someone who's experiencing one or more lifestyle addictions is time and time again around the problems of, well, the people I hang out with are doing it. Or my family all do this. Or all of my friends do this. Or I started doing it and I've done it for a long period of time. Now I don't know how to move away from it. And this all comes down to tribal-like thinking. It's thinking, well, I don't want to challenge the tribe that I'm currently in. I don't want to challenge the group that I'm currently in. Because relatability tribe is all about that. It's about being relatable, and it's about being able to fit in. And look, it is our need at the end of the day, one of our highest needs, to fit in and to feel like we belong. Really important to hear that, to feel like we belong. So of course, it's absolutely okay. And if you're in relatability right now, why would you be anywhere else? Because you want to feel like you belong. Dave, in saying that, can you at all remember a time when you were at relatability, where you'd move through level 1, you'd realise that you don't trust that many people, so you find a tribe that are also quite fearful thinking, and then you can get stuck in that tribe?
Sure, very much so. And as you say, it's being tribal, being part of a community is very important for human beings. It's who we are. And when you come out of school, you're in a classroom with 20 or 30 other kids, and you work through the school process. If you play sport, you're usually in a team. So it serves you very well as you grow up. But a lot of what we do is in innocence or ignorance, and by ignorance that's not a negative thing. We just aren't aware of our behaviours at that age. And for me, I fell into a behaviour where I was going to the pub a lot after school. I went to university. I was playing cricket up the road, grade cricket for Waverley, and after training on a Thursday night and after a game on a Saturday night, we had the famous back room at Waverley Oval there, and we just got into the beers, and it was a lot of fun. But after a year or so, I learned that it wasn't serving me well. And when you're a heavy drinker or you're a heavy drug user, you tend to hang around people that are heavy drinkers and heavy drug users too. There's two reasons for that, I've found out. One, we're not challenging ourselves in our own behaviours, so we feel comfortable in that scenario.
Well said. Yeah.
And two, the people that are hanging around us, we're not challenging them either, because often they're going through the same things we are, but that they don't want to be, it's like that picture of Dorian Gray again. You don't want to look in the mirror and see someone else who's challenging your own behaviours. I see that all the time at Wayside Chapel too, where we deal with our visitors. A lot of them have alcohol and drug issues. They get well, they might decide that they've had enough of their drug addictions or their alcoholism, and they get well. They might go to a rehab, or they go home and have a few weeks where they're well again. They come back to King's Cross, and because they're anxious or lonely, they gravitate to the people they hang around with, fellow heavy drinkers, fellow drug users, and they fall straight back into their old behaviours.
Dave, thanks for sharing that. Look, was there actually, I'm not too sure if you can, so you don't have to answer this question,
No.
but can you remember a time when you thought enough was enough, something, I'm not too sure what would have happened, but something had to happen and you challenged your tribe, such as, I'm going to change my behaviour? And how did that go in the tribe, if you have experienced that?
Sure. Look, it took a number of years. I knew for a long time I had a problem with my behaviour and my drinking, and it wasn't until I was about 28 that I picked up drugs, and but I started challenging the way I was behaving in my own tribe probably at about 31, 32 years of age. So I'd really gone through quite a long process where I knew my behaviour and my drinking and drugging weren't serving me well.
Right.
But once I picked up drugs, it was funny, you pick up drugs and your behaviour changes. It becomes a bit furtive and a bit underground, you're doing something illegal. So my behaviour started changing amongst heavy drinkers, and heavy drinkers will often, even though they might be having 12, 15 schooners a night, they're not happy when a mate of theirs starts using drugs. And alcohol is the far most damaging drug on the planet, but it's legal. And we've got pubs and clubs and bloody bottle shops all over Sydney.
Dave, we'll have to be careful not to open a rabbit hole that we'll be in.
I love jumping into rabbit holes, mate.
We'll be in for the remainder of the show.
But it was funny, friends of mine started challenging my drug use, and I started challenging my friends' alcohol use back. So even though my behaviour wasn't serving me well, I still wasn't mature enough, my emotional behaviour still wasn't developed enough to really look at myself. But, the challenging was going both ways at about 32 years of age.
Yeah, right. On that note, this is where I believe, I'm not too sure if you do, I truly believe that this is judgment.
Yeah,
Immediate judgment, and we'll see it time and time again. Somebody is judging someone else for trying to overcome, let's say, an addiction, and they're feeling judged about it. And they'll either, as you said, they'll either go back and then start complaining, well, no, look at the behaviours you do. And it's almost all of a sudden, well, that's okay then. because they've got effed up behaviours and I've got my effed up behaviours. Look, and this is the doorway to moving away from the relatability tribe and moving into level 3 of uniqueness, which is being okay with judgment. As you've just shared there, all I heard within that, the human behaviour and the code behind it was, I wanted to do something different. My current tribe said there's something wrong with that, so I said back, and there's something wrong with your behaviour.
Yeah,
Would that be right?
For sure, and there is a lot of judgment around that. And when you've got judgment, you've generally got fear, and fear brings that up the anxiety, and anxiety creates the resentment. So, and when you get those fractures in your tribe, and that can happen in families too, and that's another rabbit hole. We mightn't jump into that one today. But when you've got that resentment bubbling, that's when you get the fractures in your tribe too. Some people accept it or move to another tribe that's not judging them, but still accepts those same behaviours, or it's then that a human being says, look, I'm having enough of what I'm doing. I don't accept this anymore. I'd like to make a change. Often how we make that change, that question's too big, but you start feeling you need to make a change.
Yeah, and I don't think it's in the process of change that change happens. I think change happens in an instant. Anthony Robbins says change happens in the moment you make a true decision.
Sure.
It's not over the process of the journey. I know that the 5 months of sobriety that I decided to go through, yes, I built up the determination and the courage and more self-worth over those 5 months to finally get to my goal. However, I look back and I think it was actually when I sat in my room and decided, for the first time in my life, before then I tried to say, oh, I was quitting, not going to drink, not doing drugs, not gambling. That was all bullshit, because it never happened, which meant I was never truly made the decision.
Sure.
So when I made that decision, I knew that no matter what was coming at me, no matter what challenge was, it wasn't going to be enough to rock me, because I was above level 3 thinking. I was actually in level 4, which is systems, but we need to get to level 3 in order to make that decision. Because if we don't make that decision for us, we're making decisions based on the tribe's insecurities. And this is what I say time and time again, Dave, is somebody in a tribe, it might be family, it might be friends, where they're too fearful, as you said, they're too fearful around disrupting the tribe. Now, I'm not necessarily saying your parents or your family or your friends have to be doing those addictions too. No. But if you're to rock the boat and say to that tribe, hey, I've got an addiction, if you are worried that that's going to make them feel insecure or pass judgment onto you, that's what we mean by tribal thinking. It's all about, well, I'll put myself last because I need to belong first.
Sure.
Yeah.
And often when you need to step out of your comfort zone to look back at yourself, stepping out of the comfort zone actually means you've got to step out of your tribe for a bit. And that will challenge the rest of the people in that tribe, in that community. And some people, as you said, Tom, not everyone's an addict who's a heavy drinker. I've got lots of mates and lots of people I know who drink too much, but they can handle it. When I drank too much, I woke up with anxieties the next day. I had a lot of self-doubt and a low self-esteem around that. But I didn't like the behaviour I displayed when I drank too much. I started looking for cocaine, I'd be on the bloody phone to the dealer, I'd gravitate up to the cross, where again, the behaviour on drugs didn't stand out so much. I was creating a new tribe, and that tribe wasn't very, they were social miscreants, basically.
It doesn't sound like the most resourceful tribe.
No, not at all. But again, when you're not challenging yourself, when you're sitting in that type of behaviour, that type of tribe or community, you're feeling comfortable. Even though it's not serving you well, you still feel comfortable because your behaviours aren't being challenged.
Oh, 100%. Talking about challenge, this might challenge a few of our audience's thoughts on this. However, that word comfortable, no matter how much pain you have around your addiction right now, I truly believe that is less painful for you than trying to or attempting to live a life addiction free. There's going to be more pain associated, or you're thinking there's going to be more pain associated to it. It's something that I heard, a really good line. One of my mentors, Matt Lavar's doing amazing things in the coaching space, helping individuals with addictions and living life on their own terms. He said, Tom, at the end of the day, an addiction is the need to feel something in order not to feel something more painful. And that's it at the end of the day. It's I'm going to pick up a beer or pick up a bag of cocaine or sit on a poker machine, do some substance that gives me a feeling so I don't have to feel what's in the void.
Sure.
It's filling that void, because that feeling it's probably going to hurt, it's probably going to be hard, and it's always going to be around self-worth, knowing that we are good enough without our addiction, knowing that we can sit on our own and not have a drink, knowing that we can say no to a glass of wine even when there's 30 or 40 tribe members at a pub or a club saying no, have a drink. And that is often, when you're still yet to build your character and your self-esteem and your self-worth, that's going to be very tough.
Very tough.
It's much easier to do the comfortable approach. I think that's a really good distinction and something to know, and just plan it in there for yourself. Maybe just have a think and be really honest with yourself and say, you know what, even though this is causing me so much pain, is it actually more comfortable than living life addiction-free?
Sure.
And if you disagree with that, just let it sit. That's okay. Let it go where it needs to go. And if you do agree with that, what I think is powerful about it is you realise that, wow, who is my character? Who am I building as a man or a woman, as a person, as a human being? Who am I going to become when I embrace those challenges? As you said, if we're not embracing challenges and facing them head on, we're not growing. So unless we move forward, we're going to stay stagnant.
Yeah, we do. And look, our society is all built around feeling comfortable. It's built around feeling good. Social media, which we all love and use for good, is based around looking good, feeling great, when in reality the human being, the human body is an imperfect machine. So, we need daily rest, we need food, we need water, we need to be around like-minded individuals. And when we're not challenging ourselves, we sit around like-minded individuals, and that mightn't be good for us. When we do challenge ourselves, step out of our comfort zone, we start seeking out other people who we feel comfortable. And again, as you said, that comfortability is not a good thing or a bad thing, but when it's not serving you well, when you're not being the person you can be, when you're not leading the life you want to live and know you can live, and we'll get to that in further shows, but when you do step out of your comfort zone and feel, wow, this is an extraordinary life, when you embrace challenge and it's not a negative but a growth, that's when you're really starting to live.
Yeah, spot on. Dave, I've heard a really good line before, which was never be the smartest person in the room, or once you get to that level, change the effing room. What we mean by that is, if you're somewhere who you think, we think we're the king and we're in charge of, we're running an addiction and everyone's kind of like we're the leader and following us, that's such an unresourceful behaviour for one, but you've learnt everything you know, so you're just going to become stagnant. This is what I mean by it's challenging and it's hard, because to move into a room where we're not the king or we're not the queen or the one in charge, or like language would be, I'm the best at this, that's where we're going to learn, and that's why moving into a tribe that's going to help you is so important. But just remember, you're going to feel judged, you're going to feel like you're not the smartest in the room. If you've never lived a life addiction free, then don't expect to be at the top of the class.
Yeah, that's
straight
true.
away.
Very true. And again, living addiction free doesn't mean it's all about, as we've talked about, and Tom keeps striving. I come from an area where addictions for me were extremely damaging, alcohol and drugs, but it could be work, it could be shopping, it could be social media, it could be your mobile phone, poker machines and gambling. Addiction comes in many forms.
Dave, look, if the listeners right now, like an action step to take right now, and I know they've been enjoying the action steps, because it's like, how do I actually implement what I'm hearing? Ask yourself, are you living the life that you want? If the answer is yes, and I don't mean kind of want, I don't mean like 50-50, I don't even mean like 80-20, I mean, are you living the life you want? If the answer is yes, then stop listening, find another show, do something else, because just keep doing your addiction. If you're totally happy with it, go have a swim and enjoy yourself. Have a cold beer, do what you need to do, just do what you want to do. However, if the answer is no, ask yourself, what one or more behaviours is holding me back from living the life I want? And write them down, 3, 5, 10, maybe 20 or 50, write them all down. And then make a conscious decision to let go of that behaviour, and give yourself 7 to 14 days, or maybe even 3 weeks. And if you can't let go of it, then maybe it's time to own up and say, look, I have an addictive behaviour. How do I move forward?
Yeah. Look, one of the most powerful, poignant questions was posed to me. I was 2 years sober. I hadn't had a drink for 2 years, but I was still miserable. And an old mentor of mine, this guy's name was Bede, and he was 40 odd years sober. He was one of the gentlest, kindest men I'd ever met. And he asked me a question one day, Tom. He said, are you living the life you want to lead? And I looked at him and I said, no. And he said, okay, if not, why not? And that second question floored me. It was like this gentle, small, kind man who came from a completely different life and background I'd come from, just hit me fair in the chin.
Wow.
And I nearly fell over because he was dead right. Okay, I'm not leading the life I want. If not, why not? What are you going to do about it?
There comes a time where you need to hear something, isn't it? It's less. I
Ah.
think what I'm hearing there comes a time where it's less nurturing. In the beginning, in these levels that we're talking about, it is a lot of nurture and support and guidance. When you're getting through the level, there comes a time where someone will look at you and say, "Wake the f up!
Yeah.
Let's do it." However, we don't need to be there now. But thanks for sharing that, because this is the stuff that some listeners they're at right now, and this is where you just you get to a level where you've got your mentors and your coaches, and you say, "You know what? If I don't trust myself right now, I'm going to trust that. I'm going to trust the system." We spoke a little bit about it last week.
For sure. And look, life's not, again, we're going to keep saying it, it's not all about feeling great and feeling comfortable. I'm a father of 3. I've got twin boys, 28, and another boy, 25 now. But when the boys were born, I felt so uncomfortable, so insecure, so overwhelmed. But now I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Being a father, being congruent with my 3 sons, telling them I love them each day. They give me a hug and tell me I love them. I wouldn't have got there unless I'd gone through the uncomfortability of a new father with a newborn child.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, spot on. Spot on. Just sums up everything we've been talking about in the comfort zone and moving out, facing challenges. When you aim to achieve your goals, your problems will disappear if you're going after them, and I think that's really important. Focus on your possibilities and watch your problems disappear. In saying that, Dave, what I would like to do, I think you agree with me, is just cut to a very funky song actually, and let all that logical process and the content that you're learning, just let it go down as you listen to something, and tap into your creative side of the mind and listen to this song, and maybe just bring some awareness right now on what it is that you're learning and what decisions you want to make today. And when we come back in the next 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to actually give you the how to move forward.
Hey, we're really funky guys.
We're really funky guys. Awesome. We're going to go to a song. We'll be back really, really shortly.
Thanks, Tom.
Pure Class A, high voltage, ultra live and direct. This is Bondi Radio.
And we're still live on Facebook live stream, so thanks for being with us. We can't see your comments right now, but please type in there, what are you loving, what questions do you have? And straight after the show, we'll both jump on there. And as I promised last week, if we have any questions, we can do a live together in our Facebook group, or we can just answer them through text, whatever you'd like. Sure. Thanks so much for being with us.
And if there's anything more you want to hear, or you'd like us to unpeel, and unpeeling the onion, getting down into some of the things we've talked about, put them up on the feed there, and we're happy to talk about it. We're happy to answer any of your questions. If you feel challenged or you don't agree with what we've said, that's fantastic too.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
For sure, in a really resourceful way, bring it on, because let's start challenging our thinking. Let's start challenging our tribal thinking. I know, Dave, there's a little bit of extra value here for lucky ones that are tuned in live. Dave was sharing with me earlier when we were sitting down having a coffee, just going through some stuff that we wanted to deliver today. And he shared with me, to move away from your tribe, we've got to start, correct me if I'm wrong, but he said we've got to start challenging our beliefs, our values. And this can be challenging because we're brought up in a system to believe a certain thing and stick to that. Generally, we are taught, I know I certainly was, will stick to this. And that the earliest form of that came in the sense of religion. And this is the guideline, and this is what you've got to believe, and this is the way you've got to live. Now, when those guidelines and rules don't really produce you the results you want in life, yet you can have a bit of a, it's like your moral compass is just going to shit. Sure. Because you're thinking, well, hang on, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Now, I think that is one of the keys that really, not just the religion side, for someone else it's something else, but for me it was religion. That was the structure and the authority that was brought into my life. Once you start challenging your values and your beliefs, this is you, as we spoke about, getting to level 3 and standing on your own 2 feet and saying, I can be whoever I want. I can have my own beliefs. I can challenge what my family taught me. I can challenge what my family told me. I can challenge what the education system taught me.
Yeah, I remember, again, I'll use another example. An older guy said to me once, Dave, if I was wrong about my drinking, I was wrong about everything else I'd learned in my life. When I heard that, I was only newly sober.
I love that, Dave. Yeah. Sorry, I love that.
I was in my mid-30s, and I thought, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But you know what? He was dead right, because I've had to look back.
So I'm laughing with you, Dave. So anybody knows I'm laughing with Dave, not at him. Go on,
He was
Dave.
dead right. And one of the great freedoms I've had in my life, Tom, and I know you have watching what you've been able to achieve, is that when I challenged everything I learnt, every value and a belief I adopted, even my ethics and values, my religion as a Catholic boy growing up and being schooled at Waverley College, I'm a very spiritual person and I have a firm belief in God, but I've developed my own sense of who God is. A loving, compassioning, supporting God. And that God's not a religious God. I don't want to put you off, guys.
Can we,
girls?
Dave, do you mind?
Yeah.
Would we be able to go live? Because this is really valuable.
Yeah, sure.
And although there's some extra value for everybody watching at home, I think this is going to be amazing
Yeah,
for some people to listen.
sure.
What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Beautiful.
Broadcasting from the world famous Bondi Beach. This is Bondi Radio.
Okay, we're back on Bondi Radio, and
Hi,
welcome back if
guys.
you're just tuning in for Loud About Addiction. Dave, tell us, we were just talking about how to move away from the relatability tribe. And just off air then, you were sharing with me about your values and your beliefs, and you were actually challenging those and creating your own. What did you mean by that?
I'll bring up that example I used again. I'd only been not drinking for a year or two, and another older guy, he was a hard guy. He was brought up in the Depression. His name was Steve. And to earn money, he used to have to fight on the streets of Paddington around the pubs. They used to bet on street fighting back in those days. And Steve was a hard man. He had scars all over his face. He had massive knuckles. And he said to me, Dave, if I was wrong about my drinking, I was wrong about everything else in my life. And when he said that to me, because he challenged my old tribal beliefs, I thought it was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard. And but you know what? He was dead right. And I only grew as a man and as a person and as someone who could be of benefit to society until I challenged my old beliefs, my old values, even my ethics and morals, how I viewed the world, my religion. I was a Waverley College boy. I went through the Christian Brothers system, and I have a firm belief in a God, but I'm not religious. And we often get hung up about our spirituality because of what we went through in terms, we know Catholicism isn't perfect, we know Buddhism's not perfect, we know Islam's not perfect. However, I've got a firm belief in a spirituality that keeps me congruent in my own body, and I only achieved that when I challenged all my old values and beliefs. I only started growing when I said, hang on, Dave, what you firmly believe in is right could possibly be wrong.
Dave, I think it's really important to know, no matter what your beliefs and values are right now, and look, we're talking a little bit about specific religion here and the structure of what to Dave's life, and I certainly agree, and I'll also, the way that I was educated through school with that backing from a certain religion, it's almost like, but if I follow and believe this, I need to stick to absolutely everything it teaches. Now, when you're moving away from the relatability tribe, it's okay to take with you what works.
Yeah,
we don't have to remove everything. But as Dave said earlier, it is perfectly okay, and if not, totally advisable to question everything.
Yes.
Let's not get caught up in the right or wrong kind of thinking. It's what works for me here. You just said you believe in a God, but what was the term? You believe in a God, but you are spiritual.
I'm spiritual. I'm very spiritual.
Yeah. So moving to level 3 was a lot of questions around values and beliefs, around my morals and my ethics, and they were all within me for the first 16 to 18 years of my life because of a certain religion. And I started to question that, and then I'd go back on myself and kind of judge myself and say, hang on, but doesn't my family want me to think this way? And just over a couple of years I learned, you know what, I'm going to take what works for me, and if I want to make it up, I will make it the F up, and I will believe in what I want to believe in, and I can take anything from any religion, from any textbook, from any mentor, from any coach, and what works for me, and implement that. Once we get into this my way or the highway, or it's this way, we're straight back into tribal thinking.
Yeah, very much.
As I promised, Dave, we were going to give the how to move, the why and how to move through from relatability through to level 3 in the Trust Me module, which is uniqueness. So how do we actually get to a point where we can become or get to the level of uniqueness where we stand on our own 2 feet and we realise and we say to ourselves, my life will not be determined by my tribe's insecurities. And how do we actually get there?
Well, the first step for me is it's two words. It's letting go, and it goes against a lot of what we're taught in Western society too. And I'm a very big believer in controlling your own destiny and positive affirmation and positive thought. But I only got that way by letting go. And when I mean letting go is not controlling everything. I've got it to the point now where I have some days of the week, I try and do it once or twice a week, where I won't make any decision about the day in my life. I'll just let the day happen. And generally 8 times out of 10, the day happens as well, or if not better than what it would have done if I was controlling it. You know, I've got my little lists, I've got my calendar, you know, I've got my journal. But when I just go with the flow, do the right thing for myself, not try and manipulate people or persuade people or try and get into a position where I feel I'm in more power than another person or making money or looking better or feeling better, life pans out. So letting go is really, I attune it to taking your hands off the steering wheel, where you're not trying to control your life, where you're trying to weave and duck and score and be this and be that, where you actually say, hang on, I'm just going to be. The silence that ensues when you be can be extremely challenging too.
Yeah, very, very challenging. That's what we discussed earlier. It's about escaping a feeling. And I think for anyone that's running quite a hard, heavy substance abuse addiction, the feeling of being on our own and sitting with our thoughts can be, almost, I'd use the word traumatic, almost very scary.
It is traumatic.
And that's what it's about. It's like, well, I'm going to run this substance or addiction strategy so I don't have to do that. And the funny thing is that, well, it's not that funny, but I've realised over time with the individuals that I've worked with time and time again, they're actually trying to meet their need for connection, but ultimately the only way you can connect truly with yourself is to be on your own and be present. That doesn't mean changing your mental state by putting any certain drug or alcohol into it, because that's not connecting with yourself. However, so many of us, I certainly believe that playing the pokies or drinking alcohol was a form of connecting with me. It was like a relationship. However, it was so backwards because all I learned was I was moving further and further away from who I wanted to be and who I was. Now I can say that and bring awareness to it now, but I certainly didn't know that back at the time.
Sure. And addiction, when you're in that sort of addiction, you are forming your own community with yourself in fantasy, but fantasy is not reality. And when you step out of that, when you make the decision to step out and let go, it's going to be tough. But anything good in life isn't easy. If it was easy, if getting out of addiction was easy, we'd just stop. And the fact is we can't stop. Yeah. But what I've learned again in life is that you've got to put the effort in. You've really got to attune yourself to a life where, I like using examples. As a cricketer, I played with a couple of guys who went on and played Test cricket, and I'd look at those guys. They weren't necessarily the best players or the most talented players, but they trained hard, they had a regimen, they got jobs which allowed them to get to practice early. They bowled hundreds and hundreds of balls in a net by themselves, just bowling at a 20-cent piece on the ground, so they'd hit the top of off stump if they were a bowler. Just that practice, that routine, and routine can be challenging for someone in addiction because it sounds as if it's,
locks you up.
It locks you up, but in reality it frees you up, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does. If you got to bring some structure to your life. I think that's one of the key takeaways for today, which is bringing in rituals.
That's a nice way to put it, ritual.
Yeah, look, a ritual, ritual are daily, weekly, monthly habits that we do over and over again, and they produce a certain result, very important. Talking about tribes, one of the key things we must realise, and your ego might honestly say, no, F that's not right, okay? And I'm happy for that to happen at the moment, but as long as we take on the message, and when you're ready to hear it, it'll sink in, it'll make a lot of sense to you. And the message is, your tribe, whether they're their family, your friends, or your colleagues at work, will say, and they truly will want the best for you. However, they will end up doing the opposite. If you're in an unresourceful tribe, they're going to end up doing the opposite, because if they are at a level 2 or below thinking, That's where their thinking is aligned. They actually don't know how to move you forward. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. When I first started working with my coach, years and years, 3 to 5 years ago, I think now, he told me that I had to, and we weren't using this module, but it makes so much sense, and he's not even aware that he knew what he was doing, but he didn't use this module. And he said, Tom, it's time to move away from your current tribe. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, it's time to stop socializing with a certain amount of a group of people, and time to start finding a tribe that are above level 3 thinkers that have the result you want. And I got a little bit teary and a little bit upset because straight away I'd forgotten about overcoming the addiction, and all I thought about was now I'm going to lose 5, 10, 15, 20 of my closest friends, the guys that give me happiness, certainty, where I feel like I can be vulnerable, just having fun, excitement, all of these things. And I thought straight away, wow, I'm going to lose all of that. And he worked with me for a few weeks until I got up the courage to privately message 10 of my closest friends, and these were the ones that were, they were friendships in regards to we party, and we party really hard. And I remember sending out that message, and I was so afraid that I was rocking the tribe's boat and I was going to be judged. And, he told me this might happen. And when it happened, it really rocked me, and straight away I wanted to give up my goal. And what happened was I messaged 10 of my closest friends, and about 7 to 8 of them came back with, yeah, of course, that's amazing, that's great. One of them said, can I help you with it? Another one said, maybe I should stop drinking with you. Another one even said, oh, would you like me not to drink around you? Another one said, should I not ask you out on a Friday night anymore? And I'm saying, yes, this is amazing. And then the 2 or 3 came back to me and literally just said, what the F are you talking about? You don't have problems, who cares, you're all good. And I had to have coffee with this one friend of mine and sit down with him, and I was sweating. I was so nervous about this, going against what I believed for years, which was alcohol, drugs and gambling was fun. I had to sit down and say, mate, I can't do this. Like, I've got a really big problem. I need you to support me with it. And because his thinking is tribal based, he doesn't want to feel judged, so he's literally just holding on to me saying, no, please don't move anywhere. And I know now through human behavior, all he's feeling is, if I move away, or if Tommy Cartwright moves away, maybe that means I've got a problem. And he literally said to me, don't worry about it, we'll still go out. And I said so clearly, I said, mate, when we go out and drink, what happens? And he said, well, we go out party. And I said, till what time? And he says, about 1 o'clock. And I said to him really honestly for the first time, I said, I don't go home at 1, mate. He says, what do you mean? Yeah, you do. I always see you get in a taxi. And I say, mate, I go to the casino, or I go to a club. I go somewhere until I'm kicked out, or I can't walk anymore, and I go somewhere until there's nothing left in my bank account. And he was like, oh, really? And that was kind of enough for him to be like, oh. And even then he didn't motivate me to let go. He just shut up, because that's all he knew how to do. So that's what I mean by we've got to embrace this sense of judgment's coming. And it's not, at the same time I can contradict myself there and say, look, any judgment you're going to feel is only because you're judging yourself, and that is totally true. But unless you've done work on yourself, I'm just going to say, plan into this right now, plan into overcoming your lifestyle addiction and moving away from level 2 to level 3, that judgment is coming. However, I will say, if you go a certain period of time in level 3 thinking, and when you start really seeing results, you'll see the judgment go. And it's not so much that other people aren't judging you anymore, it's that you are strong, confident, capable, and you're no longer judging yourself, which means you're not seeing that reflected from anyone. And anyone that is going to be judging you, they're not in your life, and they're not part of your life anymore.
That's very true, and wow, that's powerful, Tom. And that's what would happen to me too. All my mates, even the heavy drinkers and druggers, they'd go home at 1 or 2, even 3 in the morning. But I'd be out till often 10, 12, midday, until I fell over, ended up in hospital, or my bank account ran out, and I'd done complete damage, utter devastation. And again, as you said, judgment isn't necessarily a bad thing. Judgment's not a negative. Judgment is judgment. It's a feeling. It's a behaviour. And again, especially as men, we're taught if someone judges us, if someone challenges us, we have to react negatively to them. We all bar up, we get the Aussie male thing, hey, come on, line in the sand stuff.
Yeah.
I've learned again that every single human being on this planet has a right to how they feel. All I can control is how I react to it. So if I react to it as, God bless you, you may be right.
Yep.
Fair enough. I hear what you're saying, don't necessarily agree, but I hear what you're saying and I honour what you're saying. All energy's taken out of it. They felt they've been heard. You've heard what they've said. and you can move forward. Now, whether you move forward together or you move forward separately, that's a choice both of you have to make.
Yeah, well said. Look, I'll add to that, if I can go a little step further,
Sure.
Dave, disagree or agree. In the relatability tribe, there's not generally, there's never a unresourceful relatability tribe. In an unresourceful relatability tribe, there's never a resourceful individual who has certainty. So everybody's just testing the waters and saying,
Sure.
and someone's saying, I might not drink for a couple of weeks, and then if someone else goes, yeah, I might do that too, and then everybody will do it. However, if one person says it and someone says, no, I'm not doing it, and the other person will feel judged and go, yeah, no, don't do that, let's all go out again. Everyone's just gravitating towards and being pulled around what other people want and what their insecurities are. When you get to level 3 thinking, when you're there for long enough, you end up being the rock and the certainty. And the thing is, I heard this amazing line for myself, or comment when I was starting to coach, and my mentor said, Tom, you need to be the change that you want to see in other people. And I was judging people all the time, saying, you should got to stop drinking, because I'd gone 3 weeks without a drink and trying to judge everyone else now. I said, no, you've got to be the change. And it literally, to be honest, it probably would have been 6 months to a year until now. Probably 95% of my friends, 95 to 98% of them honestly have turned around and now look at me as the inspiration and the support and the wow, I'd like to achieve that. You've got to be courageous enough to go. It's what I call the slingshot effect. You've got to go and pull the elastic band back long enough to create that effect, because if you get into level 3 thinking for a little bit and you enable your tribe to pull you back in, they're just getting affirmations and telling themselves, nodding and saying, yes, that's right, we are correct. But when you go for long enough, you'll call it a slingshot effect, and that tribe will turn and be like, wow, look what it is that they're achieving.
Yeah, sure, that's true, very true.
Yeah. One of the other things to really know is that, and we've discussed it, but write this down if you've got a pen and paper, or just take it on really clearly, which is the current tribe you're associated with it's producing the results in your life. And I'm not saying, pass on responsibility, because you are responsible for the tribe you're in, but if you're choosing to be in that tribe, there's a reason why you have the results that you currently have in your life. They say your environment is your biggest contributing factor to the results in your life.
Yeah, very true. And there's an old saying in recovery circles, in 12-step programs, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah, I heard that one. Yeah.
And if you're in a tribe, and I don't necessarily, I challenge a few things in recovery programs. I don't necessarily think that I was insane. I was just doing the same thing because I couldn't help it. But if you are doing the same things in an unresourceful tribe, you'll get the same result. And 9 times out of 10, that result is a negative, or it's a result that's keeping you in that tribe. It's keeping you held back. You're like this big, beautiful racehorse trying to get to the line, but you're dragging this cement sled.
Well said, Dave. Well said. Look, in saying that, what's the most amount of value our listeners can walk away with today? Okay, we've got awareness. We've heard some examples. I'm hearing it. There's a lot of people out there that are going through it. Now I've got the human behaviour behind it. This is what's happening. I'm in the relatability tribe. Now what are the steps I can take right now to move into uniqueness? How do I become my own person with my own thoughts, my beliefs? How do I stand on my own 2 feet, even though I'm going to feel judgment, and break free from the tribe-based thinking? Now, how do I do that?
Look, I think we've gone through a couple of things. There's a few points that we've got to question our values and beliefs. We've got to question the tribe we're in. By doing that, we have to step out of our comfort zone and then accept responsibility for who we are and what we're doing. And the only way to do that is gain some sort of awareness. So, we were talking before the show about journaling, writing down things. I think journaling is a very important way of expressing who we are. Often we do things in our body and in our life that it's just things that we've learned. When we get them out on paper, when we put them down, either at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, we actually can look at something we've written down and say, my God, is my brain actually thinking that?
Right.
I need to change up that sort of thing.
Okay, so for someone that hasn't experienced journaling before and bringing awareness, Dave, let's say, how many times, just starting point, really good starting point, how many times in a week or a month might I, because I don't know here, but how many times do you think would be effective for the next 3 to 4 weeks? Should I journal my awareness for the day?
Look, I think, once a day is enough. I do it a couple of times a day, but even getting 3 to 5 points down at the end of each day, having a small notepad by your bed, and I love bloody pencils. I sharpen them up and make it a nice little routine. My wife I drive her mad with my pencils because I've got bloody shavings all over my bedroom. But even jotting down 2 to 3 things a day. Getting it out of your head onto paper and looking at it's very important. And also trying to develop gratitude for your life. When you're in addiction, when you're stuck, you get a very negative behaviour, you get a negative way of looking at who you are. It feeds your self-esteem. So trying to find 2 or 3 things, even if they're quite trivial, because I know in full-blown addiction it's hard to find any lightness through the darkness. So a couple of things each day that I'm grateful for.
Yeah, really well said. And that's the specific takeaway I heard right there, which was journaling. If you know how to journal, that's great. If you're beginning to it, it's going to be 2 or 3 things before you go to bed each day. If you find a time during the day it's more resourceful for you, that's great. Let's start with 2 or 3 things each day that you are grateful for. And when Dave talked about being trivial, I'll give you an example. When I started my gratitude, what I call my gratitude diary, it's still next to my bed. When I started it, I was doing 3 things every night, and in the beginning, I'm going to be honest, some of the things I was grateful for were my dryer and my washing machine.
Yeah, for sure.
And things that worked. And it was only after I developed the skill that I was then able to realize that I was grateful for something such as my mate that challenged me and that I could tell him, no, I don't want to drink. Grateful for the love that I was receiving from my parents, grateful for the intimacy that I had with my partner, grateful for the food that's on my table. In the beginning, as you said, it can be, you're grateful for anything. You're grateful for that you've woken up this morning. You're grateful that you're breathing beautiful oxygen, and anything at all is a great starting place.
Definitely.
In saying that, the reason why this works is when you're in the relatable tribe and you're trying to become more resourceful and move into level 3 thinking, you want to develop rituals that put in place rituals that do develop gratitude, appreciation, love, and trust. Okay, so if you're all over the shop and you're not doing much for yourself, you can do that's one thing. What's another thing that you can do every day to get you going and build up your trust that you can commit to yourself and follow through with certain actions? One that I know really helped me, Dave, I thought was ridiculous because I was told to do it every morning at boarding school, which was make my bed.
Yeah.
And I used to, when I started to overcome this addiction, I'd just get up and make my bed. And if that was the only thing I was going to do and stick to for the day, well, at least it was one thing. And in the beginning, that was it. But it was a really good reminder that when I got home, I noticed my bed was made. And what that did was trigger to realise I'm grateful for that. And I'd remind myself I've got my grateful list.
Yeah, developing a ritual, developing routines, very important. Again, we can look at routine and think it's something that captures us. Actually, it sets us free. I know I feel better when I make my bed. I know I feel better when I get home. If my clothes aren't dirty and I need to use them again, I actually hang them up.
Yep.
I actually iron my shirt the night before I get up to go to work, so I'm not feeling anxious and I've got things on my mind I have to do. And each morning too, I get up and I try and reflect on, and you can do this at night or in the morning, something that I wasn't proud of I'd done the day before, or a behaviour where I might have made someone feel less than, or I'd try to manipulate it doesn't have to be a person, but an event. And I say, okay, how in a simple way can I do that differently? Doesn't have to be better, but differently.
Yeah.
And again, by doing those things that Tom's talked about, the ritual, the gratitude journal, reflecting on your behaviour, you're stepping out of the meldrum, the humdrum of your life, that whirlwind of your life where you feel out of control, where you feel as though you're being driven by forces you can't control. When you step out to do something peacefully, quietly, a bit of routine, it actually gives you a sense of purpose and a sense of awareness.
And to just, how would I say this? To bundle all of this up or hit the nail on the head, and you said the word once in there, but it's you're taking responsibility. Now the key outtake here to move from level 2 to level 3 is to take a whole heap of responsibility, and that's what you're learning to do. And as you said, they're trivial or they're quite logical, systemized. Well, that seems a bit simple, but to someone who's running a severe addiction, looking after your bed, ironing your clothes, looking after yourself, well, guess what? You're actually learning how to be a functional goddamn human being. There's so many, I'm not judging anyone here, but when we look at functional human beings, as a whole, career, finances, health and fitness, hobbies, relationship, intimate partners, all of these things come together. This is a functional human being, someone who takes responsibility for their life, someone who takes action as opposed to reacts to when shit isn't done, someone who has their life set up, someone who's going after what it is that they want, someone who can stand on their own 2 feet and realise that's it, I'm not letting the tribe's insecurities dictate my life anymore, and I don't have to be okay with it in the beginning, but I'm going to goddamn do it anyway. Once you implement your rituals, that's what you're doing. You're developing your trust and you're developing your responsibility over your own life. A really key foundation place to start.
Very true. I've got a really close mate, and he's in one of Australia's best rock and roll bands, and this guy he was a full-blown heroin addict, and he's been clean and sober for many, many years, and he's one of the greatest, kindest men I've ever met. And he talks about taking responsibility for your life. He had to choose, once he started getting a little bit better, once he put a bit of time between the needle and life, once he wasn't picking up that drink, he had to take responsibility. And having a routine, having a bit of normalcy in your life, going for a walk, even just getting up, going to work, looking after yourself and your family, trying to be a bit more functional, gave him that responsibility to believe that he could do this. He could beat this addiction. He could be the man he was born to be. And he's just living an extraordinary life now.
And he's rocking out now?
He's rocking and rolling.
Literally?
Yeah, literally.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. It's such a good example of this is the step. This is the step-by-step process. We're not going to skip a step. You can't skip a step. You can't say, give me the goods, where's my resources, what do I do right now? I'm ready for tenacity. We've got to do this.
Takes action.
It takes action. If you're not taking responsibility right now, you haven't built up enough trust that you can do it yet, that you can look after yourself. So go back to level 1, think about building resourceful trust, the tips that we gave you last week, and then get into realising that you're in a tribe where you want to move away from your relatability tribe. Now how do we do that? We build up responsibility. Okay, so we implement daily, weekly, monthly rituals that we do over and over again. Gratitude diary, gratitude journaling, making your bed in the morning, looking after your shirts, ironing your shirts, keeping your kitchen clean during the day, whatever it is that works for you. Okay, and you can move into level 3, which we will be discussing in depth, and I'm really excited for next week. To move right now out of your relatability tribe, the tribe that's not serving you unresourcefully, guess what you need to do? You need to find a resourceful tribe.
You've got to find a new tribe.
Okay, you've got to find a tribe that's going to move you forward. No one wants to be on their own. We have a need to feel like we're belonging. So while we just move away from an unresourceful tribe, what are we going to sit in our bedroom on our own? Let's move into a tribe that have the results you want. So right now you're going to find a tribe that are level 3 or above thinkers. They've got to be level 3 or above thinkers. They're influential individuals that know their life is determined by themselves and their own actions, and no matter what someone else does or says doesn't affect them, or at least they choose how it affects them. When you move into that tribe, you will do something which is called adaptability, like adapt. We are adaptable human beings because we want to belong. So guess what? You're going to want to belong to that tribe. So guess what? You're going to start doing what that tribe does. And if it's an addiction-free life, it's chasing your goals and living life on your own terms, then you'll start doing that because you want to belong again. That's one of the most profound and easiest, it takes work and action, but ways to move away from an unresourceful tribe is find a tribe that serves you and move you forward. Dave, how can they find a tribe? How can they move forward?
Look, if you're in heavy addiction and you feel there's no way that you can stop, I'd strongly recommend that you look up, get on a website, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or Narcotics Anonymous, 12-step recovery programs. When I started hanging around alcoholics and addicts that didn't drink and didn't use drugs, I was able to see a different way of life. I mightn't have believed in what they were doing, I mightn't have felt that I was worthy or fitted in, but it just gave me another way of looking at life. And I've never gone back once I started that. It took me 3 years to actually get it, but I've never looked back. Also, you can start looking at a bit of, even going for a walk, going to see a coach who is qualified and knows about addiction, someone like Tom Cartwright Coaching. Go to somewhere like Wayside Chapel where I work. Look to do a bit of volunteering work. If you've got some money, look to supporting one of the programs in some of these extraordinary charities in Australia. Wayside Chapel, we're always looking for people who want to support what we're doing. When you get out of yourself, Loneliness is the biggest separator in addiction. When you're sitting in your own house, you might have the best house on the best street, on the biggest cliff in Sydney, just up the road here at Dover Heights. But if you're lonely, you're trapped. It becomes your own jail. So we are community driven, but we need a tribe that serves us well.
Beautiful. On that note, we don't have to be in a tribe of 100 or 100,000 people. Your tribe might be my therapist that I speak to. Your tribe might start off with myself, Tom. You might, and I urge you to, please. I urge you to. If you're not too sure yet, like if you're sure, you'll be sure you'll make a call today to someone or some place. You will do that, whether it's one of the institutions or facilities that Dave's just spoken about, or whether it's me personally, add me Tom Cartwright. You'll take action. If you're not too sure yet, add Dave or myself on Facebook. You don't even have to say hello, because anybody that I connect with on Facebook, you're going to get a hello from me anyway, because I love connecting with like-minded individuals. Why? Because my tribe, and I know my tribe's got to be individuals wanting to live their own life. And now whether you're doing that or not isn't the point right now. If you reach out and you're someone that wants to live life on your own terms, let's forget about how you're going to get there, but that is worthy of connecting with like-minded individuals, so I urge you to do that. Just to add a little bit of extra value here, look, if you want to take the next steps, if you want to learn a little bit more without having to connect personally with someone, just jump on to cartwrightcoaching.com, and you'll find something on there. I'm going to leave it a bit of a secret, but you'll find something on there that is totally amazing. It'll blow your mind, and you'll receive some massive value. That's what I'm going to tell you, but it's cartwrightcoaching.com. Please remember, join the Bondi Radio Facebook page. Join the Bondi Radio, or download the Bondi Radio app so you can listen anywhere in the world, not just to Loud About Addiction, but any of our other beautiful, amazing shows run by the Wellness Radio. And also, join the Loud About Addiction page.
Yep, for sure. Yep,
there's also been, sorry Dave, not to cut you off, but there's also been some great response and some a number of people opting in for your book. I just had someone reach out and tell me that they just bought your book. So
really?
Jump online.
Cool.
Where's your book located again?
My book's sold on the shopping page at Wayside Chapel, www.thewaysidechapel.com. You can get it there, or you can get it on Amazon and Kindle. At Wayside Chapel, we've got a huge Christmas appeal coming up too, and we have a massive day. We have a Christmas lunch where we close off 29 Hughes Street. Everyone's welcome. Wow. Christmas Day. It's extraordinary. Get up to 1,000 people there. Even the Prime Minister comes along and helps out. So
beautiful.
Namaste. You're more than welcome.
Well, Dave and I both absolutely loved episode 3 of our show, and we're looking forward to another 4 or 5 episodes to deliver massive value. We're going to see you same time, same place next week. We're going to be getting into level 3, which is uniqueness. This is where we really get into some gold, where we can talk about living life on your own terms. We look forward to seeing you there, and have a ripping day, and realise that you can choose to overcome any addiction in any moment of time. Have a great time. See you next week, guys.
Bye.